Hey, thank you again, everyone, for joining me. As you know, I'm Mitchell Laird, an attorney that's worked with Dr. Love. We used to do a lot of interviews together. Unfortunately, he's not able to be on with us, so he's asked me to do a weekly show. Hopefully, we'll keep it at 2 times a week. In which I'm to update everybody on what's going on with U.S. immigration, as well as answer any questions that people may have, and hopefully introduce any sort of new concepts. The reason behind this was because we used to do a lot of shows together, and over time he's continuously gotten a lot of questions from people asking him about, this situation or that situation, just because a lot of people have been in trouble. Typically with immigration, disinformation isn't very easy to get. There's a lot of fake stuff out there. So he's always asked me to come on to clear certain things up every once in a while, but now he's asked me just to come on regularly. Hopefully it'll be Mondays and Thursdays. Definitely we'll keep it at Mondays at 4 o'clock. And then I'll just come on, give a little bit of information, and hopefully keep everybody up to date on what's going on. So right now, the last thing that we had discussed on the last show was that there was a large bust. It was in the Bronx in New York. You can be certain this is probably happening in a lot of places around the country. What people would claim is that their U.S. citizen children had abused them. And that could be physical abuse, psychological abuse. And what that means is that if your child, typically would be an adult, is abusing you, you're actually allowed to apply for a green card. And that's done without any sort of sponsor or anything else of that nature. And it's even often done without an interview. So they had a large scam going. Many of their clients had no idea that this paperwork was being filed on their behalf. And it resulted in, we're averaging somewhere around 4,000 people have probably been affected by this fraud. Anyone that's already become a citizen is probably in the clear, but everyone else, they're all now essentially have paid to be deported. And this is very common. There's tons of fraudsters out there. They're all willing to take advantage of people who are very vulnerable in the community, people that don't feel like they're free to stand up, call the police, or do anything else of that nature because they just want to draw attention to themselves. That could eventually lead from them being removed from their children. So what we shared last time, we had just a very quick overview. I'd gone over there's certain key things that you can do to make sure that you're not getting ripped off, to make sure that the person is telling you the truth. The main key factor is you got to know what you're paying for. You're not just paying for a work card. You're not just paying for a green card, but you're paying for this person to inform you on what the steps are for you to obtain those things, right? We're not just interested in the goal, but we're interested in the process that gets us to the goal. And that applies to everything, from your accountant to your mechanic. Doesn't matter who you're hiring to do something for you. Make sure they explain at the very least how they're going to get there. You don't have to be an expert to get through to that. The next case I wanted to talk about is another large fraud case. This one is a little interesting, and it also hopefully will be informative to everybody. And that's a conspiracy that ran from Massachusetts down to New York, all the way out to Seattle. It was a string of fake robberies. So just stick with me here. What that means is that they would stage a robbery and pretend to rob a convenience store, those corner bodegas, and basically run in. It's on video. They come in with their guns, they stick up the whole place, steal the money, and then they leave. The trick was that later on they were giving the money back, and they were even paying the stores to let them have these fake robberies. And why would anyone go through that trouble? But that's because there's a green card at the end of that. Whether you entered the country illegally, whether you have a removal order against you, whether immigration has been tracking you down for years, if you are the victim of a crime in the United States and then you willingly help police to solve your crime. The police don't even have to solve it, which is why this worked. The police, you just need to be there to help them. You need to be available to testify, to speak to them, etc. Once you do that, you get you get a visa, and that visa allows you to travel even with all those restrictions. And eventually, 3 years you'll be able to apply for a green card, and that's it. So what they did was, it's just interesting because it's something that attorneys have joked about all the time, is that you almost want your clients to hire someone to rob them. And someone apparently took that seriously, and so they've hired this group of men. It seems they've already made about 3 or 4 arrests. Massachusetts is the one that's going after all of them, but they claimed it happened across at least 3 or 4 states. It looks like this conspiracy ran across. Obviously, in this case, we don't really have victims. Everyone involved knew what was going on. Everyone was paid. It was there. The immigrants were involved too, and no doubt they're going to be in trouble at the end of this as well. But it is a good opportunity for us just to acknowledge that this is actually a legitimate way to get visas in the United States. If you're the victim of a crime, don't stay silent about it. Don't go hide away about it. Even if it's a friend or someone that you know that did it, call the cops immediately. It doesn't matter what state you're in. You call the cops, you get that police report, you work with the cops to solve that crime. Even if they're not successful, it doesn't matter. Then you can immediately file with immigration. Even if ICE comes knocking on your door the next day, you can just let them know, oh, it's okay, I'm filing for a U visa. And they take that very, very seriously because you're helping on stomping down crime. You're helping to get violent criminals off the street. Many times, a lot of these criminals themselves don't have paperwork, so that benefits ICE that they get to get rid of them. So it's a very good way to use it, and there's so many people that have suffered, and they take so long to get around to actually communicating that with us. So it's just something for you to keep in mind. I hope none of you are the victim of any crime ever. But if you know somebody, or if the unfortunate event does happen, at least know there is a silver lining that's available for you. The final thing I wanted to talk about with everyone was the ability to get green cards for children. There's a lot of people that are taking care of kids in the United States that are not theirs. Many times it's a niece or a nephew, or you have maybe a younger cousin or sister, and that person doesn't have any status. And it's always heartbreaking because you want to do something for them. Even if you yourself don't have status, you still want at least the kid to be taken care of. Many people always feel, especially people who have citizenship, feel that the only way to do that is through applying for them directly or having some form of an adoption for them if they're not direct blood related. But there's actually a much easier way to go about doing that, and that's called SIJ, Special Immigrant Juvenile. It basically just means that you take guardianship of the child. So it could be your own child. You could be the mother of this child. You and your child entered the country without any documents at all, or you overstayed on your visa. Many people who come to me are running away from an abusive husband or from an abusive father. Many are just trying to leave because there's certain violent aspects in their home life that, whether it's family related or just neighborhood related, that they needed to get out of. Some of them are just living here and it makes sense because they have a sick mother or something of that nature. But your children don't need to actually deal without status. What you do is, even as the parent, you can take guardianship of your own child, which sounds ridiculous because you're already the guardian. But you can still do it. And then after you obtain guardianship over your child, then you can ask the court to declare that this child's, the best place for them to live is the United States. The guardianship needs to be based off of the child being abandoned by one of the parents, neglected by one of the parents, which in many states is usually about 6 months without any sort of serious contact or care in any way, or abandoned by one of the parents. So abuse, neglect, abandonment. And as long as it's one of those, by one or both of the parents, then that's good enough for the child to file with a family court, and then once guardianship is granted, for them to get that special order, and then you go right to immigration and ask for a green card. Doesn't matter how the child entered. The child entered with or without a visa, doesn't matter. If the child has overstayed their visa for a long period of time, doesn't matter. All that matters is that they went through the family court process, and the family court declared that their guardian is in the United States and their guardian is the only one who's able to care for them. And again, it doesn't matter if the guardian is the parent, one of the parents themselves, and it doesn't matter if the guardian themselves don't have any status. The only caveat, so that means the only little thing that hooks up with this, is that if your daughter has been neglected by her father or abandoned by her father, and you apply for your daughter, and now your daughter gets a green card, your daughter can't turn around and give you a green card. Even though you weren't the person that did anything wrong, both parents are completely excluded from getting green cards ever from that child. That doesn't mean that you're left high and dry. If you are the guardian of the child, then courts will leave you alone, immigration will leave you alone, because they'll just say, well, she's the guardian of a green card holder. This green card holder is declared that they can't go back, so the only thing we can do is allow them to stay. So they do. So it's a very good system because it saves a lot of time and money, especially for people who are U.S. citizens, who are taking care of family, friends, relatives. You know, it happens all the time. It's happened tons of times in my family where a family friend in Jamaica would have approached us and just said, could you, I can't take care of this child anymore. In those situations, everyone feels the need to file for some kind of adoption paperwork so that they can at least get the child some papers here in the U.S. But really, the SIJ is available, and it's not a bad option. I really suggest people take a closer look at this just because immigration does not like this law. They've been trying to get rid of this law for a long, long, long time. Hey, Arlene, good seeing you. And so I know that when immigration reform comes down the line, this is probably going to be one of the first laws that they get rid of. People from South America have been using this for years. Every time you see children waiting at the border, it's because of this law. And so immigration's tried to stop it, but family court wants it to keep going. So for right now, we still have it. And so if you're in this situation, it's best to get it done. In most states, the child can't be over 18. In a lot of states like New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, the child can go up to 21. So there is a time crunch that you want to get in, and you want to make sure that you're not missing out on this in any way. All right, so that's basically it for today. I really appreciate you all joining me. If you have any questions about this or anything else, please be sure to leave a comment. I'll do my best to read through all of them and answer them. If you have any other issues, feel free to call my office, reach out and contact us. We're at 212-233-2988. You can also reach out to us via our website, which is lairdlaw.org, LAIRDLAW.org. And all of that should be down there inside the description as well. And then, again, if you have any other, serious pressing matters, you can text us, you can message us. We are on WhatsApp. And if you're in Jamaica, we also have a Jamaica number as well. Sorry, just one question for Cheryl there. You were asking about the age limit for Florida. I don't practice in Florida, but my best understanding was that Florida went up to 18. Most of the southern states that I've researched, so I've looked at Georgia, Alabama. I think I had one client that was in Mississippi. Each and every one of them, I believe, went up to 18, but I will double check that for you. I'll have to look up family law in Florida. The reason is because it's done state by state law. Family law is state level, so it's stupid, of course, but there's 50 states in the U.S., as you know. Each state makes its own laws about family law. Immigration law is federal, so it's the same straight across the board. And so immigration has tried to limit it to 18, but then the courts ruled on them and said, no, you have to go by the state actual law. So the state laws are what have been controlling it. I know a lot of states have changed their laws as a result of that. And so I believe Florida was one of them. I believe Florida was at 18, but I'll check and I'll get back to you just to make sure. If you know someone who's close to that age, get them in now. Like if they're at 17, just get them in now because you don't want to risk something like that. All right. So if there's anything else, feel free to reach out. And thank you again. I'll see you guys again on Monday, unless, of course, Dr. Love reaches out and needs me for anything else. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.